In honor of this week's episode with Ryan Stresnitsky, our partners at spreads.ca would like to donate 25% of all deposits of $25 to $2,000 to the Straz Strong Foundation when you use the promo code PUCK from July 6th to July 31st. All you have to do is go to go.spreads.ca/puck, use the promo code PUCK when you sign up, and click the Straz Strong deposit offer. Once again, spreads.ca will donate 25% of all deposits of $25 to $2,000 to the Straz Strong Foundation. They will also match 25% of your deposit to your account. All you have to do is go to go.spreads.ca/puck, use the promo code PUCK when you sign up, and click the Straz Strong deposit offer. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Athlete and Artist Show. I am the artist, Kyle Forch, alongside the athlete, professional hockey player Zach Boychuk. Today, we have an extremely special guest in the building. He's a former member of the Humboldt Broncos, currently a member of the Team Alberta Para-Hockey team. He's had partnerships with Adidas and Bauer Hockey. He's an advocate for mental health and founder of the Straz Strong Foundation. He's not only one of the most inspiring athletes, but one of the most inspiring people I've ever seen. Please welcome Mr. Ryan Stresnitsky. How are you, man?
Good. How are you guys?
Good, man. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
What are you up to this week of Stampede? You getting ready to rock this weekend or what?
Yeah, just trying to get all the training I can out of the way and get ready for the weekend.
And you're an Airdrie boy, eh? Are you born and raised in Airdrie, or?
I was born in Calgary and moved to Airdrie when I was like 12, so pretty much
Oh yeah,
my whole life.
yeah, that's about the same with me. I was born in Calgary, grew up in like Strathmore, and then moved to Airdrie probably when I was 12. But small world.
Yeah, very.
Fitting, we've got a few Calgary boys here the week of Stampede, hey? Do you have any concerts lined up, Straz, or what are your plans for Pete?
Just kind of going with the flow, seeing what friends are doing and just tagging along.
Yeah.
No plans yet.
There's great lineups this year, so I mean, you have lots to do. I mean, there's like 6 tents and 1,000 concerts, so I mean, you're not gonna be bored, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Cool, man. So yeah, like we said, thanks for being here. I think most of our listeners or people that are gonna listen to this episode kind of know who you are, or at least know some of your story. But for some who maybe don't, or need a refresh, you were a member of the Humboldt Broncos, survivor of the 2018 bus crash that not only shocked the hockey community but the world in general. And you suffered a spinal cord injury that left you paralyzed from the chest down, correct?
Yeah.
One of the craziest things to me about this story is only 3 or 4 months after you came out and you were like, hey, well, if I can't play stand-up hockey right now, continue my dream there, the Canadian Olympic sledge hockey team, they need a gold medal, so I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to win them a gold medal. What was your, how did you have that mindset at such a young age, and two, so shortly after, going through this type of experience?
I think, from a young age, a lot of athletes are told to always keep pushing forward and keep working hard, and no matter what, never give up. And I've kind of had that instilled in my character from the start, essentially, getting cut from a hockey teams, thinking my hockey career was over, to finding the back way around and working extra hard to try and get back to where I was. And I kind of made up this mental routine of, if something doesn't work out, keep finding a way around it, keep trying to find that open door. And when I had a spinal cord injury, I knew the extent of my injuries. I knew that stand-up hockey wasn't going to be an option. And again, hockey brought so much to me, both on and off the ice, that the next best thing was sled hockey. And I'm like, okay, as soon as I'm ready to go, as soon as I'm healed, let's get a sled set up and get a hockey rink going, and just be out there with friends and family. So I fell in love with the game again right after. And obviously it's a little different now, but I think just the spirit of hockey still lives on.
How long after were you able to jump on a sled for the first time, or how did that process kind of line up? Like, where were you able to find the opportunity to get involved?
So it was about 4 months after, 3.5, 4 months after. And one of the visitors that came in, he's just a 6'2", 6'3" guy missing a leg. He's like 260 pounds. Just this big jack guy comes in, and I'm like, this is kind of intimidating. I don't know who he is. And essentially, he used to play on Team Canada for sled hockey. He's like, all right, when you're ready, we got the hockey rink out in Okotoks. We'll get it set up for you. Get a sled, and go from there. And again, he's like, we're going to see how you like it, right? Some people get on a sled for the first time after, playing high level hockey and just hate it, right? They think it's not the same, can't really do it. But again, I got into that sled 4 months after and again, fell in love with the game.
And it's a wild sport too. I've seen like clips in games and just flying around on basically you're used to flying around on normal skates. This is a even bigger blade on the bottom of it, and you got spikes on your on your sticks too. Like, is it
Oh,
like how aggressive is this sport? It looks insane.
it is so aggressive. Like there's never not a time where you're not getting hit, I guess. So yeah, like it's so much different from stand up because you're using your legs for everything, but you can use your upper half to stick handle and move and all that. But for this, you're using your upper body for everything. So like balancing, skating, shooting, passing, right? You're having to move your hands all the time, stay balanced on two blades while maintaining speed and getting hit, getting stabbed, like all this stuff. So
Getting stabbed.
definitely, yeah, exactly. Like when you're in the corner, sometimes those picks get flying and might nick you or whatever. But yeah, it's a pretty violent sport.
Is that legal to use the pick to stick a guy or what?
It's
Sounds
not,
like
but I mean,
prison rules.
you're in competition, anything to win.
That's unreal. Do you work with like a sports psychologist or like how did for the mental health side and keeping that elite athlete mindset that you just mentioned, like how do you continue going? So we can get into your recovery process and your surgery, but I mean not only going through that tragic experience, but going through the recovery process. This can't be all ups. You're going to have your down days too. So how is it that you're able to stay focused and stay positive?
I kind of utilize the assets around me, support groups, therapy sessions, kind of anything to get my mind off of things and work towards getting better. So, physically active is one part to it all, but at the same time, talking to friends and, therapists and even teammates, right? I think just helps a lot. It goes a long way. And I don't think that, the whole mental health side of thing will ever be cured, but I think there's ways to cope and make it, as mitigated as possible. So for me, yeah, it's just utilizing the people around me, the support groups, and just kind of using that as motivation to keep pushing forward.
I'm sure, Chucky, you can speak on that as well. That's something you guys would have in common there in terms of that athlete mindset and going through mental health in terms of struggles in hockey.
Yeah, I was curious if you've like linked up with any like former like bus crash survivors. I know like Joe Sakic was on a bus there in Swift Current, and then actually one of my old teams, the Albany River Rats. I think it was the year before I got there. They had a pretty bad crash. I don't think anyone passed away, but you could tell a lot of the guys that were still in the team years later, it was tough for them to sleep on a bus. There was like a long process going through insurance and getting some money for that. So I was just wondering if you had any other contacts like that way.
Yeah, I've met a few of the Swift Current guys, the former guys that were in the accident, Sheldon Kennedy, Sakic, all those guys. And I mean, they have so much hockey history behind them, and they obviously knew how to handle certain things now. And talking to them, there's similarities within, I think, all of our stories, but they have ways of handling it that I wouldn't have ever thought of, and kind of utilize that again, try and be open-minded and understand everyone perceives it differently. So for me, it was understanding, okay, if I'm doing it this way, that doesn't mean I can't do it another way as well to, again, help mitigate the whole mental health issue.
And you mentioned the support too. I mean, you mentioned your support groups, but this was such a like an event, and through your recovery, how did you find a lot of support from not only the hockey community but the world in terms of the stuff that you were going through? Because obviously the hockey community is such a tight knit group. Like I knew a couple of your teammates. I knew Dana. A lot of people, a lot of players that played for me, were either knew you or it's such a small community. But for this to reach such a wide audience, like, did you feel a lot of support from people outside of the hockey community?
Yeah, it was crazy. I remember being in the hospital, getting letters from people in like Florida or like England or Germany, right?
Wow.
Just like all these different letters coming in. And I'm like, you know, there was a lot at the time, and I wish I could have thanked everyone individually. But again, there was just a lot going on, and it kind of helped, right? Like I think without that support, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So, yeah, but it kind of hit home to a lot of people around the world. Like hockey's such a small community, no matter where you are, and we're all there to support each other, and that's what me and my teammates felt.
And how long after the accident did you were you able to get your surgery?
Oh, the one in Thailand.
Yeah, it's called. I'll make sure I pronounce this right. Epidural stimulation surgery, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. Can you
yeah.
explain how that that process or that opportunity came about to go out there and get this surgery done?
For sure. So in 2019, in like September, there was a patient at the physio clinic I go to who came back from Thailand after having this experimental surgery done, and he was able to move muscles below his injury. So instantly I like grabbed on it, right? Like I wanted to learn more and get involved, and he put me in touch with the right people, and we set a date for November 2019 to have this done. So me and my dad flew out there, and how the surgery works essentially is you have this electrode that has I think 16 different electrodes on it. It goes on your T10 vertebrae. So if you think about it, right, you can have your negative and positive and neutral charges. So there's 32 million different combinations you can pick from to see which muscle groups can activate from which combinations.
Okay.
So it was a lot of work, but the surgery was short. Within a day, right? I think my dad posted a video on Twitter where I'm driving my knee up towards me, like doing a hip hinge, and
Wow.
it's just like not even a day after the surgery, and it was exciting. I'm like, okay, this is something we're going to work towards, right? If this is going to be my saving grace, right, we're going to make the most of this opportunity. And yeah, so that's what we continue to do. So each day, 5 hours a day of mapping, which means trying to find the right combination and program, doing certain things like kicking my leg, doing those hip hinges, assisted walking things. So it was a long process, and I was there for a month and a half every day for 5 hours doing all that stuff. So it was a lot, but I'm glad where it put me on the map, and how it was an outlet for others to kind of reach out and get the surgery done as well.
And there's still like updates. I saw or read that you were able to get it upgraded recently, correct? That's something you were waiting for since you got the original surgery.
Yeah, so the original plan was for me to go back to Thailand to get it remapped and find new combinations.
Okay.
But obviously with the pandemic that got shut down fast, and
Yeah.
had to wait till last April for them to come to Calgary to remap. And again, a week of just 6, 7 hours a day of trying to find what works and what doesn't. So it's going to be a long process that we can fine tune it, but essentially that would be the routine is going there or coming here, well, at least once or twice a year.
Okay. That was gonna be my next question. How often do you have to go, work with these doctors in Thailand or them come here?
Yeah.
Is
It's,
it you
sorry.
have to? Oh no, go ahead.
Oh, it's just like with the whole remapping process, your body starts to get adjusted and accumulated to what certain stimulation works. And so
Okay.
you're gonna have to like so let's say, electrode 1 and 3 and 5 or your right hip hinge, right? As soon as your body gets accustomed to it and it gets used to all that, now it might be 2, 6, 7, right? So over time you have to find all these different combinations because your body's changing so much. So again, yeah, it's you're gonna have to do it more often, but with travel and stuff, you just lucky to get it twice a year.
That's insane. And like having to learn all of this too, like newly, basically learning new things about your body and how, to be able to, you know, progress your recovery. That's insane. It's got to be overwhelming at times too, like learning all these, different terms and, the science behind it.
Honestly, I feel like a doctor at this point. Like, there's no way would I have been a doctor at all through school and stuff. But I think with everything I've gone through, I've learned so many terms. I just feel so much smarter about it. And I'm like, all right, well, maybe I could do this. And then I see what they actually do, and I'm like, probably not, not for me.
Do you have to keep in constant contact with the doctors out in Thailand to like update them on different parts of your recovery, or how does that kind of work being so far away?
Here and there, they'll ask how certain programs are working. For example, like the assisted walking one, they'll ask how it's working or what they could change, or if things aren't really working at all, then they'll work on sending people here. But if they're working and getting better, then they don't have to worry about it. So it's only if it really starts lacking that they send people.
Man, I saw the video of you taking the steps assisted. That's an incredible step, no pun intended, but an incredible step in your recovery, being able to, you know, take steps on your own again. Like, how did that, being able to do that, well, one, how long were you able to, or after, you know, starting this process, were you able to take those steps? And two, like, how did you feel where you were able to, you know, take those steps again for the first time? Was it kind of overwhelming emotionally for you, or?
Big time. Yeah, like in the videos, they're not huge controlled steps. They're a little short and uncontrolled, but I mean, it was a step nonetheless.
Yeah.
So, it was exciting, and I hadn't been able to do that for over a year and a half, and to be able to do that and say, okay, this is our new starting point, right? It's like a small accomplishment, but again, you're still looking at the bigger picture at the end of the day. So it's like you said, one small step at a time, and hopefully those can become bigger and more controlled and with less support.
I wanted to ask about the renovations in your house. Like, you kind of had to change everything around to make it a little bit more accessible for you. And like, what did you do while all the renovations were going on?
Yeah, so I was so I got back from Philadelphia in June from the rehab clinic there, to kind of get signed off on being able to be independent as possible. And as soon as I got back, they're like, "We want to renovate your house. We don't know how long it'll take, but we're looking at 4 to 5 months." We're like, "All right, well, we're gonna live out of a hotel until then." So me and my family were in a hotel for 4 or 5 months, and they weren't anywhere close to being done. So we're like, all right. So we lived in a hotel for about 9.5 months before the house was renovated.
Jeez.
But thankfully, it was done well. There's an elevator in there, so I can move from floor to floor. More open spaces, countertops that are lower for me, and just all these things that I would have never thought about to make a house accessible. So thanks to them for doing that. But it was a very long process. But I'm glad it's over, and I'm here now.
Man, hotel for 9 months. That must have been not fun at times.
Yeah,
Small.
you start to go crazy, like because my routine was physio 5 days a week, hockey on the weekends, and then free time in between. So unless you were hanging out with friends, it got really boring really fast.
Was that sorry, was that during COVID as well, or was that before COVID you were able to, I mean, you had to stay in the hotel and get these renovations done?
Yeah, that was just before. So
So you almost got tripled up on the COVID lockdowns then,
well,
hey?
yeah, it would have been so bad. But my dad got back from Thailand, and we read about this, you know, flu going around Asia at the time, and we're just like, didn't think anything of it. Like, oh, this, China's shutting down, or like, oh, whatever. Like, don't need to, like, who
Yeah.
cares? Then we got back from Thailand and Calgary, and like 2 weeks later, the whole world shut down. So we kind of dodged a bullet there too.
That, man, good timing. Like, that would have been brutal if you got stuck overseas and not been able to come back, because they was just started probably started shutting down international travel at that time too. Hey.
Exactly. Yeah. Like we would have been stuck in Thailand for, good, at least 6, 7 months.
That's wild. You worked with Adidas and Bauer a lot throughout this process. Do you want to talk about a little bit what you did with Adidas and what you did with Bauer? You had signed a contract with Adidas kind of early on.
Yeah.
What was the kind of the details of that? What did you end up working out in terms of the partnership with them?
So this was, I don't know. I think it was in 2019 again in the summer. And yeah, I got a DM from one of the representatives from that company. And, it's, "Hey, Ryan, we'd love to chat." And I just didn't think anything of it, right? I thought it was kind of a joke. And I was like, fine, I'll reply, see what happens. So I reply, we got the conversation going. And then they're like, "We want you to be sponsored athlete for the next 3+ years." And I kind of worked out the details that way. And essentially it was to obviously promote them, but also build a platform for adaptive athletes and myself as well, to kind of give those who don't have a voice a voice. And yeah, no, it's been good ever since. Just kind of doing commercials that way and wearing their stuff, and just trying to promote them at the same time promoting adaptive sports as well. So I'm very fortunate to be with them. And with the whole Bauer thing, they were looking for sled hockey players for a commercial that was going to air throughout the NHL season. And I went to Chicago to do the filming, and those were 2.5 long days, but I'm glad we got it done because the commercial turned out great, and again gave voice to those who play sled hockey and adaptive sports. And the whole inclusion thing is so key, right? So to be a part of that project was insane, and I'm very happy it turned out well.
Do either Adidas or Bauer, like how closely do they work with sled hockey? Or do they produce any of the sleds, or obviously like this the sticks, Bauer would kind of get involved in, but do they produce the sleds, and how expensive is it to start up and buy a sled? Like how accessible is it to someone that has similar injuries to you?
Yeah, so Bauer does the sticks. Adidas doesn't do too much in sled hockey, just mainly apparel stuff. But yeah, Bauer's working on providing more gear towards the sport because the sled is so different, right? You kind of order from this company out in Ontario. They give you a basic bucket, right? And you got to fill it with foam to fit your needs,
Okay.
right? So you have certain dimensions that fit for you, and then they send you this basic like plastic cutout. You fill it with foam and you kind of make do with what you got. So and one of those goes about $1,000 probably, and it's a little inaccessible for those that can't quite afford to play, and to get a custom bucket as well, right? It's quadruple that, right? Like it's just so expensive, and that's I think one of the projects I'm going to work on next is making it more accessible for those that can't quite afford it. So anyway, again, they're through the Straz Strong Foundation, the funding for adaptive sport programs, right? Providing buckets or gear for those again that can't afford it to play the sport, because sport changes lives, and yeah, I think it's important that people don't be held back by monetary value.
Yeah, and since you brought up that, let's get right into that. The Straz Strong Foundation. When did you found that, and what made you want to create a foundation as you were going through your own recovery process?
So the foundation started in right after the accident. I had my old trainer out here in Energy started up for me to pay for a lot of rehab sessions, and the past year and a half, it's been kind of stagnant, not really doing anything, just kind of there. And I just had the idea. I'm like, okay, well, let's get this thing going again. And instead of providing for me, let's help people out, because my time being in the adaptive sport world and being through the physiotherapy world and healthcare system here in Canada, right? It's horrendous for those that, again, it's expensive, it's inaccessible, and we need to create some change, if any. And through this foundation, I decided, okay, I'm going to start it up again, change some of the bylaws, essentially just raise all these funds to give back, right? So as soon as we can start getting the ball rolling and getting more people involved, I think change is coming. We just need funds and essentially a chance to show people that that's what we're all about.
And you do a lot of educational, like public speaking as well, don't you, through the foundation?
A little bit, yeah. So I'll go to like schools and hockey teams and a couple corporate events, and kind of tell my story to let people know that when one door closes, another one opens. So pretty much create opportunity wherever you see it. It just all starts with your mindset. And through the talks, yeah, I raise funds for the foundation and try to spread the story along, because people have no idea, right? Like unless you're have a disability, you won't quite understand what some of the things people have to go through are. And that's what we're trying to do, is promote that social awareness so that change can happen.
And it's a pretty diverse foundation in terms of you're not only uh, helping people with physical disabilities but mental disabilities too, correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So the reason I brought that one up was, I had, well, a couple of my teammates in Humboldt, they suffered brain injuries that, they're going to live with pretty much the rest of their lives. So for me, right, allowing myself to at least raise funds for them, or have a community go around that to try and find a cure or help with whatever they need in life later on, I think, again, super important. And that's why that one kind of hit close to home.
Man, that's incredible that you know even through your own recovery, and you have all of this stuff going on that you have to overcome yourself, that you still want to give back to and help other people that are going through either similar situations or completely different situations. That's super admirable that you you're taking that your your own experience basically, and as you're going through it, you're helping all these other people at the same time. That's incredible.
Yeah, like I think, if the situation was different, I could be going through a lot worse right now. But because of all these opportunities that I've had, I think I've had it pretty easy compared to most. And the same fire that sport gives all of us, and the ability to be around and feel involved and included in a community, I think is so important. So the opportunities that I've had, and I want to provide that for others as well, because for me, being where I am today and having this give back mentality and trying to share my story and trying to create change might be sparked in someone else who gets this opportunity as well.
Man, yeah, that's incredible, man. Good for you for being able to do that, and that shows a lot about the kind of person you are and your character. Like I said, going through your own struggles, but still wanting to help other people that, like you said, could have it worse. That's a good way to look at everything basically. And speaking of that, I know we had just chatted right before we started recording, but Zach and I, for the podcast, are partnered with spreads.ca, which is an online casino and sportsbook. We were just chatting with them and told them that you were coming on, that you had this foundation, and what they want to do is they want to have a tab for anyone that signs up and deposits, that clicks that tab for a Straz Strong Foundation. It'll have your logo, everything. Anyone that clicks that and deposits 25% of that, they are going to match and donate to your foundation. And they did a similar thing with Don Cherry and his foundation. So they want to kind of circle back and do that for you as well.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you so much.
And I mean, none of that goes to the podcast or Zach and I. It's just purely, 25% of the deposits go towards your foundation to help you help others, continue helping others.
Yeah. Thank you.
So what else is going on in the life of Ryan Straz right now? Obviously you're still probably a lot of rehab, a lot of physio, kind of a daily thing. How much of that, takes up your day, and then how do you schedule other things around that, or what else do you have going on?
So physio, I had it down to about 2 days a week now, 2 days a week. Just so now I'm under the national development team program for like Hockey Canada. So now it's like grind time essentially, right, to prep for September's national team camp. So it's 3 days in the week in the gym and then 3 days on the ice. My days are pretty spread out, but it's mainly focused around training, and a couple things coming up as far as travel for work and speaking gigs. So I'm going to try and get my feet on the map that way, and try to get working and set something up for myself for the future.
That's awesome, man. And like, talk about the national development program a little bit. What's kind of the process in terms, because I read that your goal is to compete at the 2026 Olympic or Paralympic Games, correct?
Yeah.
So what's between now and then, what's kind of that whole process like in terms of making that team and going through all of these camps and finalizing that?
So I've only been playing competitively like on a team for about 2.5 years now. And I got invited to go to Montreal last April for the next gen camp or development camp for Team Canada. And, I guess I did well because I got back and they said, you're on the development roster right now, and we'll pay for your training and ice, and you kind of work your way towards, trying out each year. And if you make it, great. But if you don't, you're not going to be like, tossed away, right? You're just going to be placed on that development roster to keep training and trying to crack that spot. So very fortunate enough to be in this position, and just gonna keep grinding away, right? I set that goal, and it's gonna be on my mind until the day comes.
Where is the Olympics in 2026?
It's in Italy.
Oh, that'll be nice.
That's a good trip.
Yeah.
What did your first competitive sled hockey game feel like? Like, what was the feeling getting out there for the first time? And obviously you said earlier that, it's an aggressive, violent sport. So going out there with, I imagine, a lot of these guys that have played for, a significant amount of time now, or at least a lot longer than you have, what did that feel like? And what was that experience like?
It was different, right? I think you're used to a higher speed, right? It's a slower game, but at the same time, you're also you are slower, right? Technically. So I got to think the game a little bit differently. And I remember my first shift, puck got dumped in and I was going to do a breakout, right? And I tried to stop and start, but you can't necessarily do that. Like one guy was coming after me, I was just going to stop and go the other way, right? And I remember stopping and the kid didn't stop and he just smoked me, right? Like I flipped back and, I think he got the puck and almost scored, but I'm like, all right, different game, got to think differently. So I just never stopped again, just always kept turning and doing that. So I'm like, yeah, all right. So it's a learning curve.
Man, that's crazy. And Man, I mean, I thought the sleds would go at a pretty high rate of speed. I mean, those are like little missiles on ice, basically, like
They are,
coming
some
at
of
you,
them are fast. Yeah, like double amps. I think the fastest guy on Team Canada. So McDavid's lap was what, 13 seconds, 13 and a half.
something like that.
Fastest lap. So the fastest guy on the sled team in Canada was like 17 seconds. So I mean, you can still rip quite
Oh,
fast. It's just
Yeah.
like you can't really stop on a dime. Otherwise, the person with momentum is going to crush you. So it's yeah, it's something I'm working on, but yeah, it's definitely aggressive.
Do you use like the how do you control the sled? Is it in terms of stopping and changing direction? Do you have to use like the picks a lot to change direction, or is it kind of you're using your your core strength, I guess, or kind of how does that?
It's a mix. Like for me, everyone kind of plays to their disability in the best way they can. So for
Okay.
double amps, right, they're not going to have to use their hands as much because they have such a small surface area and they're not using too much. They can use their hips way more. But for a taller guy like me, I'm going to have to use my sticks and kind of lean and try to find my edge without doing too much leaning. So it's all about knowing your edges as best you can. So for me, it's a lot of upper body strength and picking. So it's so much different, but again, I enjoy a good challenge.
It looks wild, like I said earlier. I mean, it looks like an insane sport.
We can definitely set some up to get you guys on the ice and sleds. I think that would be super fun.
That'd be awesome. I'd be down for that for sure.
Absolutely.
yeah. Is there many guys in the Calgary area that you meet up with and just practice with on the side, or is it kind of more of the big training camps where you guys all meet up in the same city and work on your craft?
Yeah, so we'll have a lot of like the national team for provincial team guys come down to Calgary usually. But again, it just sometimes when you find free ice, you find free ice because it can be hard to come by. So you hear, oh, stand up hockey or shinny or beer league or whatever. Do you want to come out? And you're like, well, yeah. Like, so you're gonna pop out on any free ice you can. And again, I think you can learn from any ice time regardless of sledge. I've been out there with little kids, bigger kids, right, just skating around, having to try and keep up to the pace, which is nice. But again, just a whole nother realm of sport.
And how often are you competing? Like, how often are these, the high level games that you're in for Team Alberta? And
We actually don't play a lot of games. We do training camps once a month, either in Edmonton or Calgary, and then we play in May a big tournament against all the other provinces, and that's our games, right? Like the states
wow,
have it better; they have the funding, so they play 70, 80 games a season. Up here in Canada, we're lucky to get 6 or 7 games a season. So
really?
yeah, it's a huge discrepancy, and I think that's some of the things we're trying to work on and trying to build.
So in the U.S., do they have more teams because they have more funding, or how does that work? How are they able to play so many more games?
So they have more players,
Okay.
more funding from their NHL respective teams. So like for example, the new Las Vegas sled hockey team, I think their budget yearly is like 250K, right, to play games, equipment, all that stuff. And so they have the numbers, they have the funding, they have the big giant talent pool. A lot of them are ex-military, so they're double amps,
Oh
which is what
shit.
you kind of want to be in the sport. They're going to be faster, they're going to be more agile. It's kind of the player you want to be, and up here in Canada, we don't really have the numbers. So, we kind of lack a little bit. So the only way we can kind of catch up to them is through our fitness and try to make the most out of every ice time.
Jeez, imagine like a big yoked up former Navy SEAL flying at you with a
Hmm.
ice torpedo with blades on the bottom of it, man. I'd be like, I'm out.
Oh yeah, like these guys are like born to kill, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes how scary that is. Like these guys don't care. They're in it to win and pretty much taking out anything in their way.
So contact is you're allowed to hit. Like, to what degree are you allowed to is like hitting and contact allowed in sled?
Full bore, right? Like obviously without the head contact, but
Yeah.
yeah, like I've seen hits where double amps are getting flipped into the glass, and guys in the air like flipping back, like it's nuts, right? Because something you can't really stop, right? If you're in a sled and you can only go
Yeah.
forward, and you get hit this way, you're going back. There's no way you can just turn out of it or stop, right?
So how would you brace for a hit in sled hockey? Because obviously it would have to be like you just said, completely different than stand up.
Yeah, you like drive your pick into the ice and hope the guy isn't stronger than you.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's violent.
Man, that's insane. I would love to get out there and try that. I definitely wouldn't be very good, but I mean,
Yeah,
I
it'd be
mean,
fun.
for sure, man. Chucky, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I was just curious, just to, like tie it all together. I was wondering, like, if you still keep in close contact with all the former guys on the Humboldt team. If you go back to Humboldt at all, if you guys have a group chat or there's some events you guys meet up at still.
Yeah, we keep in touch. Like we have our group chat going, and I think over the years we try to meet up at least once a year. Kelowna, like an event or something, right? Like just kind of get together. But a lot of them are working in school, playing hockey still, so we disperse that way, and we're all over Canada, right? So it's kind of hard to see each other all the time. But yeah, we keep in touch, and yeah, I think again that's something that won't ever go away. We're always gonna be brothers, I guess. We're all involved and just kind of be there for each other.
Awesome, man. Well, Chucky, if you don't have anything else, I think that kind of wraps it. We know you have to go in a couple minutes too, so I mean, perfect timing. Once again, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to come on. We know you've done probably hundreds of interviews and stuff by now, but it's always good to one, talk to another Calgary boy that played the sport, and it's great to share your story with people who maybe aren't as updated on what you're doing now, or maybe just weren't as knowledgeable about the entire thing. And congratulations on the foundation and your recovery so far. I hope that it continues to progress, and you keep taking those steps, and hopefully one day it'll be you taking those steps without assistance.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you guys having me on, and let me know what you guys' plan is for Stampede.
For sure. Hey, man, Thursday sneak a peek. I'm
Sounds
there.
good.
If you want to go, I got you.
Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you again, man. We appreciate it.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. See ya.